All right, let's just get straight into it. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to untangle this massive online trend and the very real street protests that have literally completely taken over our feeds today. I mean, over the past few weeks, you've probably seen it, right? Thousands of people pouring onto the streets of Delhi, a major march towards parliament, clashes with the police, and a highly publicized hunger strike. But how did we actually get here? Well, today we're going to step away from the noise and break down exactly what is happening, just looking at the facts.
Okay, so let's dive into this by first addressing that bizarre trending acronym that has absolutely everyone confused. If you've been on social media lately, you've seen the letters CJK everywhere. People are using it in hashtags, they're writing it on placards, chanting it in the streets. But what do three seemingly random letters have to do with nationwide educational reform? Honestly, it's kind of absurd that such a huge national movement is being driven by this tiny abbreviation. But to understand the serious systemic issues beneath it, we have to look at the name.
So here is our roadmap for this explainer today. 1. The origin of CJP. 2. The core reasons for the protest. 3. Sonam Wangchuk joining the movement. 4. Today is July 20th, Parliament March. And 5. The government and student stances.
Starting right at the top with Section 1, the origin of CJP and how this whole thing actually started.
Get this. It all traces back to May 2026. During a Supreme Court hearing, Chief Justice of India Surya Kant made a remark containing the word cockroach. Yes, literally, a cockroach. Now, the Chief Justice did later clarify that the comment was taken entirely out of context. But, well, you know how the internet is. A single bizarre word is really all it takes to spark a massive wildfire. And the word just went incredibly viral, sparking fierce and immediate debate across all major social media platforms.
And here is where it gets interesting, because what started as pure online satire quickly morphed into a very real physical protest. An internet user named Abhijit Dipke leaned right into the absurdity of the whole thing and founded a fake satirical political party called the Cockroach Junta Party, or CJP. It was meant to be a total joke, but it struck a nerve. Actually, scratch that. It became a massive rallying banner for thousands of young people who were already harboring some deep-seated anger about totally unrelated but incredibly serious real-world issues. Which brings us to Section 2, the core reasons for the protest, the real anger behind the meme.
For a lot of middle-class families across India, these hyper-competitive exams aren't just tests. They dictate their entire futures. The students who are rallying under the CJP banner are pointing to alleged leaks in the NEET medical entrance exams. And to put that into perspective, NEET is the absolute gateway to a medical career in India, making these leaks a devastating blow to years of just exhausting hard work. They're also raising serious questions about the fairness of the CBSE evaluation process and citing glaring irregularities in various recruitment exams. All of this is feeding into a massive, growing frustration over rising unemployment. So the core demand from the protesters is crystal clear: an immediate overhaul of the education system and direct accountability from Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan.
Let's move to Section 3. Sonam Wangchuk joins, and the movement goes national. Things took a massive turn when Sonam Wangchuk, who is a highly respected social reformer and activist, officially joined the CJP movement. And he didn't just lend his voice, right? He initiated an indefinite hunger strike. His participation immediately legitimized the students' grievances on a national scale. It instantly turned what was a decentralized youth protest into front-page news. Suddenly, the whole country was watching. Think about how fast this escalated. What took weeks to brew online back in May and June took only days to explode into the physical world by early July. Once a prominent figure put his own health on the line, it created a sort of snowball effect, ultimately culminating in this massive street action today, July 20th. Naturally, an indefinite fast takes a toll, and as the days passed, Wangchuk's health visibly deteriorated. He eventually had to be rushed to the hospital. Seeing a respected, peaceful figure hospitalized added a tremendous sense of urgency and just raw emotional weight to the students' demands. It completely galvanized the protesters, taking that underlying frustration and replacing it with a fierce, urgent anger. Section 4, the July 20th Parliament March, the Chalo Sansad climax. So, capitalizing on the momentum of Wangchuk's hunger strike, the CJP called for thousands of students and supporters to march directly to the Indian Parliament today. Despite having zero official permission from the authorities, thousands of incredibly determined protesters gathered from all over. They fully intended to make their voices heard at the absolute center of political power in the country. You can probably guess what happened next. The inevitable collision between determined youth and strict security protocols resulted in today's tense and chaotic scenes across Delhi.
The Delhi police had explicitly denied permission for the march. They imposed strict restrictions and set up heavy barricading. When that flood of determined youth met the physical barriers of the police, well, the result was exactly what you'd expect. Absolute chaos, a lot of pushing and shoving, and subsequent police action to disperse the crowds. Finally, Section 5, the government and student stances. Let's look at this current standoff. To truly understand where we are right now, we have to look objectively at both sides, because we are looking at a complete deadlock. On one side, the government and police fully acknowledge the democratic right to peaceful protest, but they firmly state they just cannot allow unpermitted, massive crowds to march into highly sensitive national security zones like Parliament. Their primary legal duty is maintaining law and order. But on the other side, the students insist that an urgent overhaul of the education system is quite literally a matter of survival for their careers. They're demanding transparency and arguing that when the futures of millions of youth are compromised by systemic failures, their voices absolutely must be prioritized over procedural permissions. Taking a step back today, it is incredibly clear that CJP has completely shed its origins as a meme. It's no longer a joke. It is now the definitive symbol of a deep, widespread dissatisfaction among the youth regarding the very systems that are meant to guarantee their futures. The outcome of this standoff rests entirely on whether upcoming dialogue can actually bridge this massive gap between the government's need for systemic security and the raw, urgent demands of a really frustrated generation. So as the dust settles on today's clashes, this is what we are left wondering. Will the physical realities of this protest actually force the government to enact real, transparent educational reforms? Or, like so many viral moments before it, will the CJP just fade back into the internet history books once the hashtags stop trending? I'll leave you to ponder that critical question. Thank you for joining this explainer to understand the real story behind today's headlines. Keep learning and stay curious.